know, if you don't speak up, you get left behind.
That's quite right.
My brother said, I like that.
Well, their loss.
Now, how many years between you and John?
Is this candy? Interesting. 8 years.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to put that.
Once you make a motion, I'll second it.
No, you make the motion.
Fall is such a best time.
I now call this Cookeville City Council meeting October 7th, 2010 to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Anderson,
Present.
Councilman Woodford,
Present.
Mayor Swallows,
Present.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Albright,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. Would everyone stand, please, for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 1, consider approval of agenda as presented. Any additions or corrections?
No changes.
No changes? Do I have a motion to approve in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any comments by the council? Seeing none, I call for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, on to the old business. Item number 2, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on September the 2nd, 2010. Can I get a motion for approval?
I move for approval.
Second.
Any comments by the council? From the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right. Next item of business is the consent agenda. Item 3 on the consent agenda is consider awarding bid for refuge and cardboard containers by the Public Works Department, sponsor Greg Brown. Item number 4, consider awarding bid for uniforms from Water Department, sponsor Ronnie Kelly. And item number 5, consider awarding bids for luminaries, regulators, and wire by the Electric Department, sponsors Tony Peak. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion by the council? Call for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, on to new business. Item number 6, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 100911, rezoning a portion of the property on Boyd Ferris Road from LM, which is light manufacturing, to RS20, single-family residential. The sponsor is Mr. James Mills.
Mayor and council members, this request was initiated by the property owner. Located on the screen is the portion of the property that's being requested for rezoning. Here's an aerial view of the property. The parcel itself fronts all the way out to Boyd Ferris and comes back into here. And here's the current zoning. The current zoning of the property is split, with the western portion along Boyd Ferris Road consisting of approximately 5 acres, zoned as RS20, and the eastern portion consisting of approximately 15.5 acres, zoned as LM. The portion of the property proposed for rezoning to RS20 consists of about 9.6 acres. The property is contiguous with LM zoning to the east and to the north, with RS20 zoning to the south and west. Our land use plan depicts the property basically as being split, with the eastern portion being zoned as LM and the western portion being used as low-density residential. The eastern portion of the property is contiguous with the Lemon Ferris Industrial Park. That's what's in here. And this is the remaining portion of the property that would stay as LM. The property owners indicate the reason for the rezoning request is to allow their son to construct a single-family dwelling on the property. Let me go back to the aerial photograph if I can. Oh. There's a large stand of trees is what he'd like to, right in here. He'd like to build a home in here. The Planning Commission is recommending for approval of this rezoning, and the Planning Department concurs with their recommendation.
Thank you, James. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion by the council? Any comments from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
So it's going to extend, all of that in the yellow is RS20 right now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's just going to move over there.
Now, the yellow line would come up through here.
Okay.
And give you a little background on why this zoning was split. It was in case there was an expansion of Lemon Ferris Industrial Park where we could, if possible, acquire or utilize that property for expansion of the industrial park. There's another parcel in between it. Let's look at here. This backs up to the call center. So there's still property that could be utilized for the expansion of the industrial park if necessary.
And how large is that site?
The part that's being rezoned,
Yes.
it's about 9.5 acres.
Okay.
So there'd still be about 5 acres or so that could be, it's a little more than 6 acres that could be utilized for expansion of the industrial park if necessary.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Mr. Mills, just question, I guess for my curiosity, I'm thinking, I'm fine with this as it stands, and I think it's fine. I mean, but my question is is in the future, one of the things I've seen in the short time I've been here is that, folks will build next to a manufacturing site, and as time goes on, if that rezoning changes to, heavy industrial or something of that sort, then the owners come up to us later on 10, 15, 20 years from now expressing discontent with what's going on with that. Is there anything that's done here and now to help prevent that problem coming up in the future when you have residential building right next to manufacturing?
Yeah, there's a couple things. If there is expansion of the industrial area onto this property, the remainder portion of this property, of course, it'd have to be subdivided off from this and incorporated into some additional properties. At that time, this would become a property line, and there'd have to be screening and buffering placed.
Okay.
Our zoning code requires when you have different intensity of uses that you provide a certain layer of buffering and screening. For this instance, it'd be a 30-foot buffer with a type 3 screen, which is solidly opaque to the height of 8 feet. Another thing about this situation, this is the property is split, so they're aware of how the zoning is now.
Okay.
And your son will know what zones around him. Yes, this is the property owner.
Okay.
It's Horsley.
Okay, this area right in here is a low area that holds water a great part of the year. And so personally, it would cost a lot of having to do with drainage, getting drainage elsewhere. So personally, I don't foresee that that would be expanded because it's really low and then it goes up much higher right here for a narrow strip. And right now, it's being used as agricultural.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's true, and the possible expansion would be more to the south of Lemon Ferris when we looked at this a few years ago. Maybe we need new batteries. Through here,
Uh-huh.
over to this way, we'll go back to the zoning map. This track's the best remaining track we have left in Lemon Ferris, and we've had some prospects look at it, and it's potentially possible that it could expand over into this area. But she's correct, this is a low area. If you've been out there, there's a large pond, it keeps a pond there. That is a low area in there. But this is the area that we'd look at for potential for future industrial development.
Okay.
And your thought, that is still the best area left
Yes.
for development? So, okay.
Okay. Matt, thanks for answering my question. That was my main concern. Wasn't so much now. It's 20 years from now when that property gets, if it gets subdivided and the folks that have put all their life and earnings into a home out there, that they get some serious significant concerns about some manufacturing going around there.
Well, they've actually asked to keep this remaining portion when they came in to talk about the rezoning, that this back portion stay as light manufacturing for the potential that it could be purchased and developed for industrial. So they realize what.
Okay.
I believe you realize what.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any more comments? All right, call for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mills. Next item, excuse me. Item number 7, consider approval of purchase of properties at 515 North Willow Avenue, 166 West 7th Street, and 404 North Hickory Avenue for the Cookeville Regional Medical Center. Sponsors, Cookeville Regional.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Paul Korth with the hospital here tonight on behalf of the Board of Trustees. Board of Trustees is asking Council for consideration and approval of these 3 pieces of property located again on 515 North Willow and 136 7th Street, and the orthopedic office, which is just right behind the hospital on, is that?
That's great.
Let's see here. We get
Did you see it?
bearings here.
Up at
There's-
the top
there's
is 7th Street.
The top is 7th Street, runs here, so this piece of property on Medical Center Boulevard, we own, or the city actually owns, the hospital purchased those pieces of property on both sides of the street there on Medical Center. So this would give us the properties all the way in from the hospital to 7th Street. Then the property here on Willow is the last piece of property in between 5th and 6th Street that the hospital owns all this that's on Willow, along with a large portion of the property on the backside. There will be 2 pieces of property that are owned by Quality Med for, it's a convenient care center, that are right on 5th Street here. That's the only thing that's not owned by the medical center, so we own everything around that. And then the third and final piece of property is the orthopedic building, and the property, which is located, hospital main campus is right here. We still do have this Hickory Street opened up. This is 4th Street, and of course this is parking around the hospital, and this is the only piece of property that's not owned by the medical center in pretty much this whole circular block here. Price is total $1,645,000. Would be purchased with funds from the operating budget of the medical center, and again, all these pieces of property are in the medical district and would be used for medical purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Korth. I do have a question on the West 7th Street property there. Square footage of that piece of property, or the building, I guess? Or what's your price per square foot that you're buying it?
The price on all this property per square foot is just right at $16 a square foot.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That piece of property has just about 10,000 square feet of property. It does have a building on it. There is a 4-quad rental property right now, but that will be torn down. That plans are by the medical center to tear that down and have this boulevard into the facility here, because we already own, again, here, this is where our rehab hospital sits. So this will be turned into parking, and this will be turned into probably greenway and a nice entrance into the medical center.
Yeah, I thought that was actually an
Right.
excellent price
Right.
per square foot.
Now that's 16, and the property on Willow is also $16 a foot. There's 18,750 square feet in that piece of property right there. So it's a pretty good sized piece of property.
All right. You have something?
I'll wait till we get a second.
Do we have a motion to approve purchase?
So moved.
Second.
I do have a question. I
Okay.
have a couple of questions. Or
right
actually,
ahead.
I have a statement and I have a question. I was concerned that there's a frat house right next to that. Isn't there a frat house right next to that 7th Street thing?
No, it's a couple of houses down.
Oh, okay.
It's-
Well, thank
no,
goodness.
it's-
I was
no.
worried.
The SAE house is right next to it.
Right
Yes, it
yeah.
is.
It is right
The SAE house is the property. We'll be joining up against the SAE house. That is correct.
Are they okay with that? I mean, that's a,
It's kind of,
that's supposed to be, I'm supposed to be kind of funny, but that's not very funny. I worry about our
Are
frat.
they
our
okay
frat
with us
fellows.
purchasing the property and tearing it down for beautification?
They'll be sitting there on couches
Their
enjoying that
couches, I mean, I don't know.
beautiful
Probably
property.
help you.
You might find a volleyball court on it.
It could, you could. There is some, right now, there's currently some pretty good-sized shrubbery that actually
Down here.
has almost acts as a fence. I mean, it's probably 10 to 12 feet high shrubbery in between those pieces of property that I've seen.
I was actually giving you a hard time, Paul. Thanks
Okay.
for putting up with me.
That's
And I
okay.
do have a statement to make. I'm going to remove myself from the vote on this, even though I would like to publicly state that I do support the purchase of this. It's been with my own conscience and then under advisement of the city attorney. I don't want to have any hint of impropriety. It just so happens that I, as an anesthetist and a partner in upper Cumberland anesthesia, I do a lot of work with the orthopedic guys, and I'm going to excuse myself from that to remove that sense of impropriety. However, I do want to make sure that everybody knows I do support this purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Epps.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. Actually, Mr. Shipley, is this a motion we need to make to either to purchase? To either purchase or condemnation?
yes. Yes,
Do we
you
need to amend the motion, or?
Yes, the motion and second's on the floor, so you'll have to amend, there'll have to be a motion to amend, and that motion to amend will be to acquire the property either by negotiation or by eminent domain.
So moved, or so amended, or
Yeah, so move to amend.
so moved to amend.
Yeah.
I second.
All right.
So now you'll vote on the amendment first.
All right. We need to vote on the amendment to call for the vote.
4 yes votes,
One abstain.
1 abstained.
Okay.
Approved.
So now back to the
Now
original.
you vote on the motion as amended.
Okay. First, do we have any participation from the audience? Any comments from the audience? All right. Seeing none, call for the vote.
4 yes votes, 1 abstained. Approved.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr.
Council.
Corr. All right, on to item number 8. Consider request for alley right-of-way abandonment. Water Department sponsor Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, I've been in negotiations with Randy Gall concerning a sewer line easement that our department needs to obtain for the Burton subdivision sewer line project. During those discussions, it was suggested that he would donate the needed easement in exchange for an abandonment of an old alley right-of-way that bisects a lot that his father owns on the southwest corner of Dixie Avenue and Jerry Whitson, and it's in a family partnership. The abandonment of this right-of-way would allow the lot to be fully developed and hopefully would generate some additional tax revenue for the city at some point. And this is the lot here that the family partnership owns. This is the old alleyway that goes through it, right-of-way. In the city codes on Title 16, Streets and Sidewalks, there's a closure and abandonment of city streets and right-of-ways. And under that section, there is 2 ways that can initiate the closure of those right-of-ways. One's by the property owner and one's by the city council. And so my request tonight is for the city council to initiate that closure. That would save the property owner from having to go do surveys on his own property and do that sort of thing. In this ordinance, or in the code, if the council initiates the closure request, it would still go to the planning commission. Planning commission would review it, go through all of the details, and then bring it back to the council with their recommendation. There's also a provision about compensation And in there, it says about when the abandonment has been initiated by the council, the payment of such sum shall not be required. And there is a provision about conveyance of other properties that the council can accept. So my request would be for the council to initiate that closure if you so desire.
Thank you, Ronnie. Do we have a motion for approval?
I
So
so
moved.
move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right.
Okay.
Any discussion by the council?
I have a question. Or-
Well, the motion needs to be to initiate the closure and to send it to the planning commission for their recommendation.
Yes.
You get that?
Do we need to do two, that was my question. Do we need to have two motions?
No,
Or
I think
one
you can do it
supersedes
one.
the other?
No.
Just make sure that it's clear.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
And it'll come back to us.
Yeah,
with the conveyance
it
board.
automatically comes back to you from the planning
Okay.
commission.
So
All
it's-
all the planning commission can do is recommend to the council.
Okay, so we'll see this again.
So the motion on the floor is correct.
Yes.
Closure request, okay.
Any discussion from the council? Any from the audience? All right. Seeing none, call for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you, Ronnie. Item number 9, consider awarding bid for Phase 1 of the Burton Subdivision Sewer Project. Sponsor Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, we opened bids on the first phase of that Burton subdivision project I was just discussing with you. It's going to tie in down here in Booger Swamp to our existing line. We're going to bring it up, come to the end of Burton Road, and then end up to the end of McCully Road, which will be Phase 1, this is the bid that we're talking about tonight. And then later, we'll be bidding out the remainder of the subdivision. But for tonight, this is the bid just for Phase 1. And J&S Construction Company was the low bidder, $493,787. We'd recommend approval.
All right, do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any comments from the council?
I've got a question, Ronnie. The amount of the bid is substantially lower than the other businesses that sent the bid in. There is a process to check that they're meeting specs. So.
Well, they have a set of specifications. They've posted bid bonds. We've checked math. Everything looks good.
Looks like a good deal for the city then.
Oh, yeah, a lot of money, a lot of,
Is there have a limit on change orders at all, or?
well, that's, there's always possibilities of change orders, but that's our jobs to try to filter through all those, you know.
Of course, once they initiate the bond, it's
Well, I
pretty
mean,
solid job from that point.
Well, they have, yes, we'll have you'll award the contract tonight to them. We'll have the city manager sign a document, sign the contracts, and we'll take the documents to them for them to sign.
Mhm.
If they choose not to sign for whatever reason, I think you could have an option then to cash a bid bond in for not performing.
Okay. Any more comments from council? Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, ask for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ronnie. All right, item number 10, consider awarding bids for cabs and chassis and an aerial bucket. Sponsor Tony Peak from Electric.
Mayor and council have two schedules. The first schedule is for the cabin chassis, a 2011 year model. And the second schedule is for the 55-foot aerial bucket that will be mounted on that cabin chassis. On the cabin chassis, Neely Coble Freightliner was a low bid meeting specs for $67,015. And on the aerial device, Altec was a low bidder meeting specs for $86,522. This was a budgeted item, and it did come in under budget, so I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you, Tony. Have a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Any comments from the council, questions? Comments from the audience? All right, call for the vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
All right, this concludes the agenda items. Now is the portion of the meeting where we open up the floor to hear from the citizens or delegates. First, I'll ask the council if they have anything they want to say or I'll mention.
I want to remind everybody that the Brown Bag concert is tomorrow at the Depot from 11:30 to 1. Is that the time? And if the weather holds like it has been, it'll be a beautiful day tomorrow to do that.
Thank you.
What do we carry in our brown bags?
Well, probably just your lunch.
Anyone else?
Oh, no. All good.
All right. Hearing from the audience? Anyone? All right. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I think you had one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Judy Butler. I live on Skyline Drive, and we've had quite a thing with the quarry, which I'm sure all of you are well aware of it. We are having a lot of problems with trucks not covered. There are rock and gravel all up and down Highway 70 where they're piling them high and falling off and not covering them. There are certain regulations that they have to meet, and they're not meeting them. So I would like for you guys to consider whatever needs to be done in those situations.
We'll contact them tomorrow.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.